After getting blasted by the Bengals, can the Falcons defense step up this week against the Carolina Panthers? I'm your host, Aaron Freeman, here on Locked On Falcons, and I'll be joined by Jarvis Davis to give his keys to victory on Sunday.
You are Locked On Falcons, your daily Atlanta Falcons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
So, guys, you know me. I'm Aaron Freeman. Been covering the Falcons for many years, formerly at FalcFans.com, RIP. Still going strong on Twitter at FalcFans. And, of course, the very humble host of this Locked On Falcons podcast, part of the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family. And today's episode of Locked On Falcons is sponsored by SimpliSafe Home Security with Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe. 24/7 monitoring agents capture evidence to accurately verify a threat for faster police response. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Just visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more. And guys, we thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen each and every day. Of course, it's free and available Monday through Friday on a variety of podcast platforms, including on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Falcons on YouTube. Give us a like, hit that bell, and you will get the video version of the podcast the night before the audio drops. So, as usual, every Friday, I'm joined by none other than Jarvis Davis, one of the co-hosts of the ATL Day Ones podcast, alongside Tanitra Batiste on the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast feed, alongside other shows, Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, A to Z with Mark Zeno, and always, Jarvis, we open the floor to you to give your key to victory for the Falcons to get another W on Sunday.
You know what? After the the embarrassment that it was on defense for the Atlanta Falcons, I want to start there because when you think about all of the injuries that they had to deal with, and just going back and looking at the film, there were some positives there, right? There were some things that I saw that I actually liked from the defense. It's just a matter of they had to get things cleaned up on the back end, and that was really hard to do when you lose you have you're down two starters, and essentially you have a practice squad guy starting playing man-to-man coverage against Jamar Chase. It's never a good situation. So I think the key for the Falcons is to get back healthy, right? Get back healthy on that side of the football, and they've started to do that because D. Alford was limited at practice, and he looks like he's going to be a guy that's going to be raring to go on Saturday. And then obviously you have Darren Hall and Isaiah Oliver. Those look like it's going to be your three guys, where probably end up having Isaiah Oliver sticking at that nickel spot and have D on the outside as well. So, you know, you have some guys that you're pretty comfortable with coming in and being solid. And then obviously with Jalen Hawkins, we know that he's going to be out. That's going to be something that we're going to keep an eye on as well. Dean Marlowe and or Eric Harris, the guys going to be stepping in that aspect. So just need the guys that are going to be in there as starters for the first time. They have to come to play because PJ Walker, when you give him time, he can slice you up a little bit. So I think that's the key for the Falcons for me is this. And also, as always, they have to put some pressure on the quarterback. Get home. Arnold Ebiketie has been very close to getting to the quarterback. And I think it's time for him to get home. And Leonard, Mr. Carter, Lorenzo, I need you to do better, sir. Yeah, there we go. That was keys.
Yeah, I mean, we saw this Panthers offense carve up, you know, a much better secondary last week against Tampa Bay.
Yes.
And so, you know, those guys are going to have to kind of respond and rebound after a tough week. And, you know, I think we'll find out a little bit about, you know, this coaching staff's ability to sort of respond to this adversity. It's not that we doubt their ability to do so, but they just got to go out there and do that. And that'll be something that will continue talking about as we continue today's episode, this team's ability to respond against a Panther team that, a week or two ago looked like their season was kind of over, but now maybe things are sort of resurging for them. And we'll get into that as we continue today's episode. But before we get there, guys, I am going to plug the Locked On Sports Atlanta podcast family, where, again, you can find 3 shows: ATL Day Ones with Jarvis Davis and Tanisha Batiste, A to Z with Mark Zeno, and Hitting Hard with John Chuckery, all in the same podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. And YouTube is also the home on Locked On Sports Atlanta for the Locked On Falcons postcast, where none other than myself and Mr. Jarvis Davis come at you every Sunday immediately after the final whistle, there to give you our quick recap, our postcast of the Falcons win, loss, or draw. And so make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta, give them a like, make sure you hit that bell so you know when we go live. And let's talk a little bit about, security, right? The Falcons secondary was not very secure this past Sunday. And if you're looking for your home to be secure, I can not highly recommend more highly SimpliSafe. I myself had a break-in several years ago, and initially I needed to get a security system. And the main reason I was attracted to SimpliSafe was how affordable they were. But in the years since, I've maintained with SimpliSafe because I trust their service. I love how customizable they have been. If you're looking for a bare bones security system, they got you covered. If you're looking for all the bells and whistles, you want the wireless HD security cameras, you want smoke detectors, leak detectors. If you're worried about your pipes freezing, if you're up north, they got you covered for that. SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters with their cutting edge technology, powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who will always have your back, dispatching police, first responders at the moment of a threat or emergency, even if you're not home or can't be reached. You can customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl, and you can save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Just visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnfl to learn more. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. Guys, I also want to thank you for making Locked On Falcons your first listen. And, in addition to Locked On Sports Atlanta, why not check out Locked On Sports today as one of your subsequent listens? You get the insight from all the local experts across the sports spectrum that only Locked On can provide you. So subscribe to Locked On Sports today, available on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. So we're continuing today's episode here with Jarvis Davis, talking about the keys to victory. He's already sort of touched upon the defense's ability to respond, given some of their injuries, given some of the challenges. And I'll be honest with you, Jarvis, I've been trying to think something compelling about this upcoming game against the Panthers. And I'm struggling to come up with anything that's really interesting. And that's not a shot at the Falcons, that's not a shot at the Panthers, but it's just kind of your typical division game. It's just both of these teams know each other well. It's not going to be a situation where one team's going to out scheme the other. It's just going to boil down to who's going to go out there, who's going to execute, who's going to be able to run the football, who's going to be able to pressure the quarterback, who's going to be able to prevent their quarterback from being pressured, who's going to make that play or two on special teams that's going to flip field position and give their offense a chance to put points on the board. I look at the Falcons, and, I'm optimistic that they'll be able to respond because, I look at that Bengals game and I felt like they got out coached. I think they got out executed. That's not a knock on the Falcons. That's a testament to, the Bengals doing what they do. And one of the reasons why they were able to make it as far as they were a year ago and seem to be getting that back on track this season. So I'm very fascinated to see how this team responds, given what we saw last week. And if, we're going to see this team come out here and do what they do best and pound the ball down the Panthers' throat and play better defense, more disciplined defense. What are your thoughts on that for Sunday?
I'm kind of with you because, like, we've talked about this on ATL Day One's podcast with Tanisha Batiste. We talked about this, and we talked about how, like once you get punched in the mouth, like everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? With a famous philosopher, I think his name was Mike Tyson. He said that.
Yes.
So I think that the Falcons got punched in the mouth, and rightfully so, right? Because when you think about the matchup, you got T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, like going off. Those guys are really good wide receivers. And then the people that they were going up against, that's where the Falcons were decimated in. Like they were absolutely stripped to bare bones. Almost have to move a running back over to play cornerback, you know, in order to help them out. So I think that's what was supposed to happen. And the bank, like I said, Bengals went out there and executed it. But I think from a Falcons standpoint, like it's kind of a good thing because a lot of people have feel some type of way about whether or not this should be a run pass team. So now that got stopped because of not necessarily stopped, but it got to the point where you almost had to throw the ball more, and I think that's it forced Arthur Smith to, hey, this is when this happens, this is what I'm going to do, and I think that you're going to find that out on Sunday whether or not he can make the necessary adjustments. Not to say because what's not going to happen, and I know Arthur Smith knows that he can't do this, and I know he can't do this, and I'm sure you know he can't do this as well. You can't sit back there and throw the ball 35 times a game. That cannot happen. You have to be able to be more timely in when you throw the football. Yeah, because do you come out and run it and throw the football on first down? That's something that you might have to consider because they are one of the top rushing teams on first down in the NFL, if not the top, if I remember correctly. So those are some of the things that you're going to have to think out and process and let it be a trickle down effect to your quarterback and your offensive line. Like, hey, we're going to start switching some things up. We're not necessarily going to sling it all around the yard because that's something we can't do. But what we are going to do is we're going to start switching things up to the point where defenses aren't knowing what's coming. Because when defenses know what's coming, is especially when you have to pass the ball, that is going to put your offensive line in a horrible place. And it's going to put you in a place that we saw them in last week. And Caleb McGarry on 5-step drops seems to still be an issue.
Yeah. You know, as a resident of Caleb McGarry Island, it was tough. It was tough last week, you know. Power was out, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
everything.
It's like, hey man, you know, let's get out of here.
Like,
But yeah, I think you know,
wins everything.
yeah, we've been talking about this on this podcast the last couple of days. It's like, you know, can they evolve what they do offensively, right?
Yeah.
We know when it comes down to running the ball on first down, running the ball on second down, and then, you know, converting a 3rd and 2, they can do that, right? We've seen them have success doing that, but can they play a different style of offense? And you're not expecting that to switch overnight, but like you wonder, like when we're doing keys to victory a month from now and against the when we play the Panthers the second time on Thursday night, or when we're playing the Bears and the Commanders and the Steelers, like, are we going to be talking about, okay, this passing game has moved forward, it's better, like it doesn't have to be great. We're, again, as you said, we ain't expecting this team to start throwing the ball 40 times a game and winning that way.
That's not a good recipe for success.
But you know, can you throw the ball 25 times and still be an efficient offense and a balanced offense and bring that to the table? And so that's going to be the thing that we're going to keep an eye on moving forward. And you know, again, you're not expecting that to switch overnight, but you kind of want to see, do you see progress against this Carolina Panther team? Because you feel like going into this game, Carolina shouldn't, you know, you never know, but they shouldn't be able to drop 28 points on you in the first half, you know? You know, like, yes, I was going to take another shot, but I don't want to jinx it by saying anything more.
Go ahead, man. It's your show.
And be eating crow on our podcast on Sunday. So I'll just let it go.
Because you know they're going to bring it up. Like, we got those people.
You feel like they'll be able to play their game, but can they play a better version of their game with a little bit more of that balance in the passing attack?
Yeah, I think they potentially they could be. You know, because here's the thing. And just from a surface standpoint, right? Just looking at Carolina's roster, they got DJ Moore. Yeah, I give him that. He's a solid wide receiver. He went off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, like you said earlier, they have a better secondary than the Falcons do. I mean, just to go ahead and put that out there. So I think that's the type of weapon that could potentially hurt the Falcons. But outside of that, like, what are you really looking at? So I think that, and then you look at the quarterback situation. They had Joe Burrow, and we don't even need to talk about how he matches up with PJ Walker. PJ Walker, he had a solid game last week, but what you want to do is to make him. You want to be able to make him look like an undrafted free agent, look like a guy that played in the XFL, and let him know that, hey, that was the XFL. Or last week was an anomaly. Those are some of the things that the Falcons have to force the Panthers to do in order to not be in the situation that they were in last week. But because I just don't think the Panthers have the necessary weapons to force the Falcons to get into a situation that they did last week. I think they can come in with the same game plan that they've been able to do. And like I said, but evolve it a little bit, like not 14 times. Hey, how about 18 attempts? The baby step this thing. You know what I mean? Like 4 more passes, dog. Like four more timely passes that you can, maybe with some on first down. Maybe go play action, take a shot on first down instead of on third down when they're expecting you to do it. Those are some of the things that's going to help evolve this offense, and I think that they can do that against a team like the Panthers because, hey, they fired the coach. They're down to their last quarterback, and they got an interim head coach who nobody believes can be a head coach in the NFL or at this particular moment, and he's just out there coaching for a job. So I think that, given that the case, you better be on the watch, because when you have people in a situation like that back against the wall, hey, I'm just out here trying to prove and do what I need to do. They're gonna pull out all the stops. So I think Dean Pease and Arthur Smith need to be prepared accordingly.
Yep. I agree with you on that one. But we will wrap up today's episode getting Jarvis's thoughts on, if, the team should be making some moves before the trade deadline. We got that coming up on Tuesday. We've already seen other moves from around the NFL, and I know there are a lot of Falcon fans that are like, hey, why not us? So we'll pick Jarvis's brain on that as we continue today's episode, guys. But now I want to give you a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. I linked up with BetterHelp this August. I've had several sessions since then, and I can't recommend them enough for someone who's looking for someone to talk to if you're just trying to help navigate all of life's twists and turns. And BetterHelp Online Therapy will assess your needs, match you with your own licensed professional therapist in less than 48 hours. For me, I know a big sticking point for me was I wanted a person of color, and BetterHelp was able to provide me with a great list of options. BetterHelp is not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. You can log on anytime, send a message to your therapist. You can do weekly video, phone sessions. A big reason why I signed up is because BetterHelp is much more affordable than traditional offline therapy, and financial aid is available. A big sticking point for me was that financial stuff, and I was hesitant to try. But now with BetterHelp, I'm looking at it as a affordable investment in myself. And if you're looking to make a similar investment, head to the website, take advantage of this special offer by getting 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's 10% off your first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/lockedon. Guys, before we wrap up today's episode, I want to remind you that, if you're enjoying Locked On Falcons, why not enjoy it with the other Locked On Sports Atlanta shows by downloading the Locked On Sports Atlanta app today on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. You're going to get that great local coverage 24/7, and of course, it's free. So download Locked On Sports Atlanta app today on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. So, Jarvis, wrapping up today, talking about, potential trades. People have been asking me all week long on this show what I thought of it. And, I feel like there's no real sense of urgency for the Falcons to make a move with the trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. This is a rebuild. It's the beginning of a rebuild. So they don't need to feel like you see other teams like say Kansas City making the move today for Kadarius Toney. You saw the Eagles make the move yesterday for Robert Quinn. These are teams with Super Bowl aspirations. We saw that last year with the Rams going after Von Miller. When you're looking for that last piece to push you over the hump. But certainly the case has been made from several people that, the Falcons may not be a Super Bowl team, but maybe they could make a trade that's going to help solidify their chances of making a playoff push later this year. I'm just curious, do you feel like the Falcons should or could make a move before Tuesday's trade deadline?
I'll go with the latter. I think they could make a move, but I don't think they should make a move because here's the thing, man. Like a lot of guys that are made available in these conversations are mostly guys that are on last year of their contracts, guys who probably didn't get their fifth year option picked up, and they're having probably the season of their lives. And the team that they have them, nah, we don't believe that player. Let's go see if we can get some value for this dude. And those are the type of guys that are available. And I think the Falcons aren't in a situation where they need to be going after guys like that. You're not good enough to get rent players. Sorry. I mean, that's just those are just the facts. I get that's what, but just from a standpoint of knowing what you're in, knowing what you're trying to do, like you've already built the roster that's being competitive, right? That's what you said you're going to try to do. That's what you say you're going to try to figure out. And I think that it has to be the perfect deal in order for Terry Fonten to pull the trigger because if there's a veteran guy who plays corner and who's been solid, who's a little longer in the tooth, and as basically on the last couple of years of playing in the NFL, yeah, like a Casey Hayward. If there's a Casey Hayward out there, a Casey Hayward comp out there, yeah, go ahead and make the phone call and see what they're talking about. But as far as going to go get a guy like a Bradley Chubb or somebody like that, nah, man, because here's the thing. That's how you get yourself in trouble when it comes from a spending standpoint. That's how the Falcons got themselves in trouble for spending money unnecessarily in certain places. Now I know they need pass rushers, but yeah, their best bet to go draft another one. You know what I mean? So to be better in that department. So draft your own guy. Don't take anybody else's trouble. So yeah, I think that they could make a move, but I definitely don't believe that they should make a move because that's when you start to get yourself in trouble. And I think the Falcons, we understand what it looks like to get yourself in financial trouble for spending money unnecessarily.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. We look at the financial issues that they got into. They were short-term thinking with the Dan Quinn regime. Understandably, they made it to the Super Bowl and they were like, okay, let's
get
make
back.
the moves that we can do to get back. They're not really in that situation. And you look at the amount of money that they're going to have to spend this upcoming offseason. We hope that they spend a good chunk of it. I know for me, just for the content, I need to have that content in March.
They did Terrell, Chris Lindstrom. Hey, they need to get paid. Why not?
Yeah. So I'm hoping they pay some guys at some point so I could just talk about it and not be sitting here in March being like, well, ain't nothing going on in free agency like we had the last couple of offseasons.
Yeah, man, we don't want that. We don't want those.
But I do think because they're going to spend a lot of money, or at least more money than they have, these draft picks that they currently possess become a little bit more precious because you're not going to be able to rely on like getting comp picks in the future because you're going to be the way that formula works is like if you spend more money than you're giving, if your players are leaving, and we know that because the Dimitrov drafts weren't great towards the end, and those are the guys going to be coming up to free agent, like I don't know, as again, Caleb McGarry, the director of tourism on McGarry Island, like I don't think he's going to go out there and get a whole bunch of money that's going to net us a big high draft pick. So I feel
really.
like the Falcons need to kind of hoard these draft picks unless, as you say, there's like you're able to get a really, really good player where a team is just basically like, yeah, we're going to give this guy away, similar to what we did with Deion Jones, but you kind of want to get a little bit more return on that value than what maybe Deion Jones is given to the Browns or whatever. But yeah, that's where I'm at with the potential making and trade moves. But you never know. It could be sitting here Wednesday on Locked On Falcons. Well, the Falcons made this crazy trade, so we'll talk about it. So I always appreciate the content, Terry, if you're going to provide that for me.
Yes, come on,
Jarvis, any final thoughts on that or this upcoming matchup in Week 8?
I think that I'm beginning to get to a space where I feel like Terry Fontenot is going to make the right decision from a general manager standpoint. And if I could use a baseball reference, I know this Locked On Falcons podcast, but if I could use a baseball reference, I've come to the point where whatever happens with the Atlanta Braves, I trust that Alex Anthopoulos has a backup plan. If it doesn't go the way he feels he wants it to go, he has a backup plan, and that backup plan is going to be almost just as solid as the initial one. So, yeah, I'm starting to get to a place like that with Terry Fontenot, but I am interested to see what kind of deal he pulls off or doesn't pull off.
Absolutely. So we will keep you covered on that here. And of course, we'll keep you covered on this Week 8 matchup against the Carolina Panthers. And make sure you check us out on Locked On Sports Atlanta on the Locked On Falcons postcast on Sunday immediately after that final whistle. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Atlanta and hit that bell so you know when we go live. And always, guys, appreciate you making Locked On Falcons your first listen, Locked On Sports Atlanta your first listen. Check out Locked On Braves, Locked On Hawks, Locked On Bulldogs for all the great local coverage. And of course, if you want to get that national coverage of not just football, but basketball, baseball, college sports, all that and more, Locked On Sports Today is a great second listen for you, getting all that insight from all the various local experts, free and available on all the same podcast platforms that you can find everything else here on the Locked On Network, Apple, Odyssey, Google, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to your favorite shows here on the Locked On Network. And that is going to do it for us here. Jarvis and I will be back on that Locked On Falcons postcast on Locked On Sports Atlanta, and we'll have you covered for this upcoming Sunday's game. Of course, check out Jarvis and Tanitra, as well as Mark and John on Locked On Sports Atlanta each and every day, as well, to keep you covered on.
Dang, Zeno did you that bad when you came on this show, man? Like, I saw that, man. That got a little testy there, man. Y'all's interviews are very entertaining, man. Y'all need to keep doing that.
Yes, I'm always, I got my guard up. I'm like, okay, what is he going to hit me with?
What are you going
to So,
because he's going to hit you a couple times before you ask the question. He's going to punch you about 3-4 times before you ask the question. Now, you know you were wrong about this, but I want to ask you about this anyway.
So, yeah, go check that out, guys, if you missed that earlier this week. So, really appreciate it, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the holidays. Don't let it get too spooky on you. So enjoy that. So appreciate it, guys. Till then.